us to make sensitive decisions. Allow us to talk through issues that will be upon us today. Bless us all. We ask it and claim it in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So we are moving right along with our city council budget workshops. Making good progress towards approving our budget for the upcoming fiscal year. And with that, there are always some miscellaneous type items, several of our partners who, obviously the city supports financially at times, and so we are responding to council's last request to hear from, one of our partners in particular, and we're glad to have the Memphis Authority for Convention, Sports, and Tourism here with us today, Mr. Bill Ellen, President and CEO with Experience Columbia. I know Ms. Kelly Barber, I see, is here as well. So we'll start with that, Mr. Mayor and Council, and then we'll also work our way through some other items that I know either you have expressed an interest to me about, we have ongoing programs, and or there may be requests that have come in that you didn't necessarily know about, but I get them, and so I have to then bring them to you after we sort of read those a little bit. And of course, with all that, a discussion of, continued discussion of our special revenues, because some of those sources of funding are related to some of these items. So with that, we will start with item number one, which is the presentation from Bill and Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council, Ms. Wilson. We appreciate the opportunity to come before you today to talk a little bit about the funding that you provide our organization, our organizations, and how it makes a positive impact on our city. I know on the agenda, you have the tourism development fee, but if it's okay, I'd kind of lead off with, the authority is composed of the Convention Center, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the Sports Council, and we get various funding from the city for all three organizations. Of course, the CVB gets the state accommodations tax, and the Sports Council gets state accommodations tax as well as some hospitality tax. And then our convention center gets the tourism development fee, the 3% collected by the hotels. We use all the accommodations tax. The law requires us to use that for marketing and marketing outside of 50 miles. And so we use that for publications. We use it for different media platforms, social media and others. We attend trade shows. We bring in travel writers. We work with influencers to help promote our city to outside of Columbia residents. And we've been real successful. The growth of the visitation from visitors, people that travel outside of 50 miles, continues to increase every year. Of course, they spend dollars when they're here. They spend dollars in hotel nights and restaurant visits. They visit, many of them visit our local attractions. And so they pay various taxes that benefit us all. Of course, the tourism development fee is dedicated to the convention center. We are requesting $3 million this year. That goes to the operation of the convention center, as well as marketing and other expenses.
Did this me, or did Bill put somebody else's picture on there as he's asking for the $3 million?
I will say that Bill looked better in the picture than he does in person.
I didn't want to have to dodge any darts.
But you look all right. You look all right.
So that picture is Cheryl Swanson, who is our general manager, and Cheryl has been with us about 6 years now. She came from North Dakota and ran a facility and venue there and has done a really good job at the convention center. Our expenses at the center continued to grow as everything. Expenses are up. Transportation costs to get things to the center. We're having surcharges that we used to didn't have, and we've hit a time period. The convention center is now 21 years old, and we're still using some of the same equipment and things that we opened the doors with 21 years ago. For example, kitchen equipment. We've got on this year's budget, we're spending a little over about $430,000. That's new dishwasher, which is very expensive. It's new coolers. It's new some new ovens. This equipment is very expensive. So we're going to spend a little over $400,000 just on kitchen replacement equipment this year. Some of it is the technology in the dishwashing will make us more efficient and faster. So that'll be a positive return on that. Carpet, we get about 9 or 10 years carpet life on our carpet. We're in year 21. We've replaced the carpet one time since the original carpet. We had that scheduled for this year. We plan to move it into next year's budget because it was getting the carpet and finding it. We have to take the building, we have to basically shut it down from business for about a week to get the carpet up, strip the carpet out, put the new carpet down, and we just don't have enough open days this year to take up the carpet and install it. So we're going to plan for that next year, but that's about $850,000 for a
Bill,
carpet.
they can't do that in phases so that you could still operate?
We may, you're talking about like maybe do one ballroom. Yeah, we could do that. It's probably a little more, adds a little cost to the installation, bringing them back several times. But we'll probably end up doing that, Mayor, but we still won't have it scheduled until next year's budget.
And all of those capital expenses, though, we still have a capital account for that. So that's
Yes,
not.
yes, sir, we do.
So Bill, I'm just looking at this and things that always kind of make me wonder about stuff. So 1920, 207,000 people and your revenue is 1.15. Okay, now with a little bit less, you're at 1.75, so that's good. So you're obviously charging more.
What we've done is the groups that we've had over the last year probably been a smaller number of people, but they've been what we like to say better business. It's been better business in that the events that they did spend more money. So we've increased revenue with less people in the building. Yeah, so
I like that. All right,
yeah, it's
so-
kind of a win-win.
Yeah, right, all right, so is there a tipping point at some point? So if I looked at your number of 190, your number of 1.76, what's the capacity of that number? Is that a?
We're getting very close to, because of restrictions with having available space and dates available, we're about at the point where we can't grow the business anymore. We can increase revenue with price increases, or maybe the mix of the business might be they have more food functions than just meetings. So we're doing things like that. But as far as the number of meetings, it'd be hard to have a lot of growth going forward without more space.
All right, so that's lead me to my next, and maybe my final question. So we talked about like margin. Okay, so you have better groups, you have better margin on what you're making, so to speak.
Right.
So would there be a third graph that we could put up here that talked about margin? 'Cause like in my business, I don't get the same margin for GE Aerospace. I get double the margin for GE Aerospace.
Right.
Right now, so than I do for Hilton.
Right.
Well, but there's also more work to it.
It
as
is.
well. So it's not the same. Yeah. So there's effort too. So is that something that's worthwhile looking at?
It is, and our two major costs in what we do would be labor would be number one. Labor has gotten very expensive. Trying to get people to work for, what we're paying is a challenge, and we've had to increase pay. And then the cost of goods. I will say from a food and beverage standpoint, we're running right now, year to date, we're running 22.5% food costs, which I know the mayor understands food costs. That's a really good food
It is a
cost.
good-
I would say that's kind of like my material cost.
I mean,
So, yeah, that's pretty good.
anything under 30 is good, and we're at 22.5, so we're fine tuning that everywhere we can.
So I think where I want you guys to lead us is the future, not so
Right.
much the present.
Right.
The future's got cost to it, but the future has benefit to it.
Right,
That's what
And the hard thing with this is it's kind of unfair to really show this, in my opinion, because the reality is the convention center is not a profit center. It doesn't make money, it loses money. Where the benefit comes is the hotels, the restaurants, the people coming here. So what we really want is the convention center to attract something that provides more people per square foot, better.
For sure, but
And
right
so I
now,
think
that's
that's how
a,
it
that's a,
built it
that's,
in.
that's a challenge that's not gonna get fixed.
Not right now.
Yeah, right now, that's what I'm
Right.
saying, but so it takes that investment.
Yeah.
But the point is, what is that
potential growth,
chart look like over here?
okay,
So
Yeah.
what we gotta do, and that's why it's like I know enough not to know enough.
Right.
So what I wanna know is, what does it look like
going
5 years from now? What does it look like 10 years? Who comes and who do we replace?
Right.
How do we make more off of them than we did off of these? How does it
Right.
do all the secondary and tertiary things that the mayor just talked about? And how does it tell the story before we find ourselves in the middle of the story?
That's right.
And I got people killing me in the middle of the story with a chainsaw and a gun, chasing us around. So that's what I really want to do is
So-
put together the story, because I would really like to know who comes here, what do they spend, why do they do it, where could they go? Just if you just had like a bunch of pie chart metrics of stuff,
Yeah,
it would be helpful for me to
Right.
buy into the right future, not the future, the right future.
Is that to look beyond the one hundred and ninety
It's
thousand?
here, right here,
Yes, sir.
right here. I wanna be right here.
it's a great question.
This is you guys.
Right.
To the mayor's point, this is the best you can be.
Right,
So this is who you are, but who do we wanna be, is what I wanna try
Right.
to nail down.
well, and I appreciate the mayor recognizing the,
Bill, on slide 7, the importance of tourism, are these Columbia specific?
These are Richland County, Lexington County, and the city of Columbia combined.
Okay.
We work with a research partner, Tourism Economics, and they use a number of different metrics, including hotel occupancy data from STAR, which is now CoStar, as well as Longwoods International, to develop these numbers. So we submit all of our information to them, and this is region-wide tourism numbers. The number of visitors that came from 50 miles or more into our region, and this is 2023 numbers. We will have our 2024 numbers in July or August.
I think it'd be helpful in the future to have that, like what year it was, the million visitors, where did they come, outside of the radius, maybe what areas they're coming from, and then sometimes like these numbers are so big, it's hard to make meaning of like what that means practically speaking, so I think kind of piggyback on Councilman Brown, just getting a little bit more specificity to help us
Color.
understand.
absolutely.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's also, yeah, because I mean, it's I mean, that's pretty good.
Oh.
But I think I'm fixated on the future.
Yeah,
Like
Well, I mean,
6.4
the
million
number we
visitors,
need to
when
be
did it spike?
fixated.
When did it
Yeah,
go
right,
down?
right.
The events that were like,
I under,
Need to be fixated on is the 5.7.
Yeah, I totally agree, right, I
Yeah.
totally agree.
How do
That's
we, with all the things that we're doing, how are we messaging those folks that come here that out of the 6.4 million, I mean, that's a big delta of people that aren't spending the night. That's our opportunity.
Yeah.
The overnight guest. So how do we increase that? And that is not just the convention center, it is Experience Columbia and how. And
It is.
I think that discussion now, tying it in, and today I got a question on the panel from Leadership Columbia. One of the persons asked, they said, well, you know, how do we get people to come here when, you know, if you go to the internet and Google search, nobody talks about visiting Columbia. They only talk about Greenville and Charleston. And I said, it's an internet problem that we gotta fix. Is how do we get the right search engine to drive our costs? And I think that's what we wanna do, because if we increase that number, because it used to be 5.1 and now it was, I think, 5 point something, and now we're at 5.7. So the more we increase that, the more benefit that we're getting to the community, because those people are spending the night, they're eating out, and they're buying stuff.
And I will say that we are doing a lot of the competitive targeting during our online channels. And we are for meetings and conventions and for leisure travel. People who are searching for things to do in Greenville, we want Columbia to come to the top of that search engine. So those efforts are being channeled. And we do have, there's so much data from all of the different marketing campaigns, advertising campaigns that we can share with you as you want them. So we can provide the digital marketing report, we can provide the search engine marketing report. So all of this is available as you'd like it.
And
What we want to try to do is because we battle it already, because when you Google Columbia, a lot of times people aren't getting the true information, so it's a constant battle. So how we enhance that, because that's what, when people see it, because I mean, we've gotten earned media.
right,
Proves that people want to come here and they're having a great time, and we see it at Soda City. And talking to people, because the majority of the people I talk to there are not from here, and they're coming here because they're coming for the weekend. I met a couple from Mobile, Alabama the other weekend down here, and they're, as she said, free birders, you know, they're, and has no kids at home, you know, and they came here and they're like, we're picking cities in the southeast, and we read something about Columbia, and they came and spent, 3 days here.
so
concern.
those are all good questions and thoughts, and to address Councilman Brown. Yes, sir.
Let me just ask a follow-up question, because I think you did hit something that I think you need to be sensitive to, and that's futuristically,
Right.
how do we move past the 190?
Okay.
And moving past the 190 involves the data
Right.
is gonna come futuristically.
Right.
That's important for me. And I think,
Sure.
I think we got a good benchmark there with the 190.
We do. We've made a lot of progress from 10 years ago or what. And what we do, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that all contribute to attracting somebody that wants to come to our city to host an event or host a meeting. We're taking the marketing dollars that we get funded, and we're maximizing those about as much as we can. I would say, looking to the future, it would be great. In order to grow that number, we're fishing in the same pond every year. Okay, so if we have with more marketing funding, if we can go to a new pond, a bigger pond, we can attract.
There's a different pond that I, again, fixated with. So my entire family, with the exception of me, because I wasn't invited, going to see Mel Robbins in Chicago. Anybody know who Mel Robbins is?
Yes.
All right, I didn't know who she was. Yeah, that's it. That was a good one, yeah. So anyway, okay, good. You can go with Pam and that if you want to. So, but the question, so I want to know when Columbia, what year that Mel Robbins comes to Columbia and my kids fly here versus going to Chicago.
Right.
So that, and again, okay, but it's just on my mind because I was kind of shocked that everybody in my family is flying from, my daughter's flying from Colorado, my other daughter's flying from California.
You're going to spend a lot of money in
They're gonna spend a lot of money
hotels
in
and
Chicago.
restaurants.
And my other daughter's flying from West Palm.
That's why they didn't invite you.
I know, but they didn't invite me because they knew I'd be a buzzkill on the trip.
And
That's
I
why.
will speak a little bit to, yes, ma'am.
Well, no, and I just wanted to add too, but that's also more or less Mel Robinson. So now I'm into this discussion.
I was just hoping for
But
the
no, but
Savannah
she-
Bananas and y'all are like.
No.
You see how many
So
tickets
what
they
did
sold
she
at
look
Clemson?
for
I
in a
know,
location?
exactly,
Yeah,
right,
what is
it's
she
that
looking
whole,
for?
it's like
But she has
three-dimensional, it's
metrics.
three-dimensional
Right.
whack-a-mole.
It's multifaceted, and I think that it's growing the hotel community. A visitor wants a multitude of different things. They want the dining, they want the shopping, they want the hotel, they want the outdoor recreation. And I think growing all of those assets simultaneously, which I think we are doing a great job of, and I think that's why you continue to see back to the general numbers, those numbers growing, because that combines leisure with sports, with conventions, that's all of it. And so I think that as you're growing, we're getting more hotels, we're increasing, and again, the awareness of these places, the awareness of Congaree National Park, the awareness of Soda City Market, and all of these things. And I think that those things that's what's ratcheting up the quality of the concerts, the quality of the speakers and presenters that we
To
get.
go back to my previous point, which I just love what you're saying, I really do.
Go into this.
I wanna see I'm gonna, assume this is blank.
Yeah.
So the key is, okay, so that model that you just described, the next model is this. So you gotta have X number of hotel rooms, you gotta have these, you gotta check
Yeah.
these boxes
Yeah.
to get this. And then when you check those boxes, you wanna check these boxes, and if you check those boxes, you get this. So
Right.
in a long-term thing, what boxes do you have to
Well,
check? to get Mel Robbins?
Yeah.
Which boxes, what do the boxes look like
Well,
to get Mel Robbins?
There's a
And again, I know that's,
Yeah.
I'm just using that as a-
there's a lot of boxes that influence and impact what we do, and it's hard to go back and look 5 years ago, but if you went back 5 years ago and look where we are today, you see some of those things happening, and we're getting a lot of momentum. But a lot of those boxes that need to be checked. One of them, a key thing is the airport. Anything we can do to get more flights.
Okay, but that's good, you're right.
If we could get more full service brand hotels, that helps. It's a picture that we present. You mentioned Charleston was born on third base, okay? So they didn't have to work too hard to get there. Greenville 20 years ago was not where they are, and Main Street, the development of their Main Street caused, with the restaurant scene and all that, caused people to say, well, hey, I take my meeting there because my attendees have a lot to do. With the development that's going on our Main Street and with Bull Street, we're starting to develop those things that attract people.
I think that's fair too, that the G word had, but they kind of built a vibe, and then there's a little bit of a herd mentality that drove more stuff there. I think we have the ability to take the vibe we have and then to create some excitement and a little bit of a herd mentality
Right.
that I don't want to be left out. We want to develop, in my mind, in Columbia, we want to develop FOMO. We want people to say, I don't want to miss out, so I want to do something here.
I really think it's happening now. It might be slower than what a lot of us want, but more things to do on Main Street, more things to do in the city. The more things we do to improve quality of life for our citizens, the more favorably they talk about our city when they're outside. And that's a big influence. If you ask people from Greenville, they say, oh, we love Greenville. We can do this and this and this. You're going to have with Finley Park renovation and all, you're going to have citizens that say, hey, we got a great park. But they start talking about positive, great things, and they start telling the story. That momentum is, you can't put a
I think we have to plan for that. That's what, I think that's where we're at. We just want to, we want to be prepared for that moment, not
Absolutely.
surprised by that moment.
Can we move on?
I'm just a little wound up today, so.
We'll speak on sports for just a minute. Sports is something that a lot of people don't understand the economic impact that sporting events have outside of maybe a Carolina football. It brings a lot of people, but baseball tournaments and lacrosse tournaments and soccer tournaments for youth that bring in the parents, and they come for 2 or 3 days, and they eat in restaurants, they stay in hotels. Those have a tremendous economic impact, and everybody in the country has recognized that now, and it's gotten so competitive. For example, the mayor mentioned the Savannah Bananas. I heard on the radio this morning they sold 81,000 seats in Clemson coming up. We're working with them now to try to bring them to Columbia. right now, their price tag is $150,000 to pay them to come to your city. And that doesn't count all the other expenses. That's just their purchase price. Yeah. So, those type events, when we worked along with the city, the mayor was heavily involved, the USC with the Rivals in Red, those type events that brought $13.2 million economic impact and 80,000 people from, I think, about every state in the country. Those type of events, 13.1 million impact. Those type of events have tremendous impact, but the smaller ones throughout the year is our bread and butter. And the better facilities we have, the more attractive we are to those decision makers. There's some stiff competition in the area with some sports complexes. Rock Hill does an excellent job bringing in sports. Our challenge a lot of times when we're looking at an event, say a tennis tournament or a softball, is we say, well, we can give you 5 fields here, and then you can drive 4 miles and you get 4 fields here, and then a few more over here. And they're experiencing destinations now where they're all together in a complex. And so we're up against that, but we're still finding a lot of success in attracting those. Our weather's good. 3 interstates coming into our destination is a plus because mom and dad can drive with the kids, 300 or 400 miles out, pretty easy to get into Columbia. So that's a nice asset that Columbia has. But these sporting events, you can see the impact and the growth there. And Scott Powers directs that team, and they're doing a good job. And they're working right now, on some of these things you don't think about. But cornhole tournaments bring in a lot of people. We had a handicap rugby tournament last year, which was guys in wheelchairs playing rugby, and it drew a lot of people. I just say that's a non-traditional type of sporting event that makes an economic impact. And these trade shows that we go to, those tournament or event owners are at these trade shows, and we're getting in front of them trying to pitch Columbia and what we have to offer to get them to come. And so we're out there every week trying to attract those types of events, and we're finding a lot of success, but it's very competitive.
And I will say, I find like it's an equal part relationships with our University of South Carolina, other athletic fields and providers, and same with meetings and conventions. The relationships with the local community partners, hotel partners, and then turning around and marketing that to the right sports events owners or teams or organizations. And so it's making sure we're doing all the things on the home front that need to be done to make sure that we have access to the facilities and the things that are needed, and then turning around and marketing that. So that's kind of what Scott is doing all the time, is 1 foot in the market, 1 foot out of the market, just trying to make sure that we have everything that we're able to.
And we're dependent on a lot of our partners. USC is a critical partner for us in some of those type events. I will be blunt in saying, until recently, they've been a challenge to work with because they didn't have an open mind to see the big picture for the community. And so we would get shut down on some events because they shut us down from the start of not having access to their facilities. I see that attitude changing a little bit. We're in the process right now. We've got a bid submitted. We'll find out before the end of the year. As a result of the Rivals in Red, these teams, 46 teams, will be competing in the World Cup. One of the sites will be Atlanta. And so we submitted a bid to the FIFA organization, the soccer organization, to be a host camp site for one of those 46 teams to come in and use. USC has allowed us to use their soccer field. So we're hoping to get a Spain or Bolivia or somebody that will come into Columbia, and they'll be here for how many days is it? Is it?
2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's like
Training
19
before that.
days, I think.
And then they go off and do their
Stay in a hotel for 19 days. They practice. They spend a lot of money. And we've got a bid in for that. We'll find out before the end of the year, but that would be a huge event.
That'd be awesome.
And so that's just feeding off of a prior success with the Rivals in Red. But
I'm on those teams.
and then the CVB is working to attract conferences, conventions, events that don't necessarily meet in the convention center. They can meet solely in the Marriott Hotel. They can meet in a Hampton, or Hampton Inn at Harbison or whatever. So they're going to trade shows, attracting those type groups that don't need a convention center. They're not that big, but there's a lot more of that business. So, Dana Lilly is our director over there, and Dana worked in Myrtle Beach for a long time before she came to Columbia, and doing a great job there. And that's the ATAX, state ATAX that we use there to market, to attract those events.
She wants how much? Does she want?
That's the
2.5.
2.5 million that we've applied for from accommodations tax, and that includes meeting and convention marketing, but also the leisure marketing that you're seeing, travel writer recruitment for just general Columbia.
Yeah, and a big component of what they do is in our marketing is attract leisure marketing. The mayor talked about running into people from Mobile, that are here for leisure. They're not here to attend a meeting or a conference or any other event. They just wanted to get away for a weekend, and maybe, for what reason they have recognized Columbia as a place they want to go and experience. And so that leisure market is huge. And these travel writers that we bring in, and there's expense of that, because most of the time we have to fly them in, we have to put them in a hotel, we have to feed them. But they write positive, articles on things in Columbia that attract leisure travelers. So it's all a big puzzle. There's a lot of pieces to it, and it's a lot of different directions, and we try to herd it all in and do the best we can with our funding to attract from all directions.
Bill, let me ask you something. So I've noticed revenues are kind of plateauing off, right, over the past 2-3 years.
Yeah.
If memory serves me, our H-tax kind of plateaued off. We were a little surprised to see our H-tax number didn't balloon, kind of stayed steady for the past 2-3 years. What correlation do you think there is with the revenue streams that come through the convention center and our overall H-tax revenue streams? And I know we can't get into that.
Right.
We can. If we got into the Vista and everything, but,
So
and I guess my question is, what does an investment in a convention center do to our increase in H-tax?
Right.
Accommodations tax?
Well, obviously, the larger groups that we can attract that come from further distances, meaning that they're going to stay more than one night, they contribute to restaurant visits, and that revenue and increase the hospitality tax. And for example, we've got a group in now, the Amarok. It's a electric fence company, and they have a national sales meeting. You got 1,000 people in town, and today they didn't do a function in the convention center, which we would like, but our big picture, they're turning them out into the Vista in the area for lunch. And then tonight they're going over to Segura Park, and they're having, they've got a concert from a rapper. They go over there, and they're going to be spending money there for that venue. So they're impacting that. But to get back to your question, the larger the group, and the more nights that they have to stay because of whatever they're coming here for, will increase the hospitality tax. Again, we're about maxed out in the building about the number of people we can bring. I know this is not for discussion now, but there's a project on the table, may happen, may not, to bring in a hotel that will give us more meeting space. That will help because we'll be able to bring in more meeting business. Won't necessarily be able to bring in a lot larger because it'll be another ballroom. We can do more of what we're doing, which is a
We can bring
plus.
in different because you got access to 200+ rooms.
And we got a full service, nice
Full-service
brand.
hotel
Yeah.
with rooms.
That's
It's-
exactly right. And the groups that we are booking right now, we have pretty much cleaned out the fish out of all of those ponds. And to fish in bigger ponds, we need a little bit more in terms of facilities and rooms that are walkable. You know, when y'all go to conventions, you probably want to stay in a hotel that's either right next door to or in the same building as the meeting space. You're not gonna wanna take an Uber and go across town. Those are the kinds of things that these meeting planners are telling us when we're saying, hey, come to the, they
Depends if I
love
like the people I'm at the
destination.
convention with.
But they're
Yeah.
wanting more space
Not-
in the facility.
Not
They're
many,
wanting more
yeah,
rooms.
not many of our attendees stay in the hotels in Harbison, but what happens is if we fill up the hotels downtown, those guests that normally stay there have to find other rooms and it pushes out into the other areas. But, yeah, having a hotel next to the convention center, having more space, it would be a huge plus.
Well, to Councilman Brown's point, so that build out of what a 5-year snapshot looks like, all that data is gathered and put forward for what an addition to the convention center revenue-wise could bring in, right?
Right.
You have that packaged up and easy to read for your salesman's sake? For you going to local governments and saying, this is the clear-cut winner,
Yeah,
this is the path forward if we want to get to this level of attendees and this level of revenues, we're not just,
you say that the developer for the proposed Westin Hotel, hired a firm to do a feasibility study that gives him reason to want to build a hotel. And those numbers are projections going forward of what he might be able to expect. The growth of USC,
has he shared that with you? Has he shared that with us?
but we've not gotten those results yet since nothing has been confirmed, but I know it's been done.
Well, I
They
would
came and
imagine if
met
the
with us.
developer wants to move it forward, he would share that good news.
Yeah, we
What
can
the
get it.
sunny
Yeah.
side looks like.
Yeah, we met with the guy who came in. I think he was from, I don't know, New Jersey or somewhere. He came in and met with him, answered a lot of questions. He toured around the community and made visits. So I think he compiled a lot of data that we'll try to get for you.
And then my last question for you, do you coordinate with the Comet at all for streamlining the effectiveness of the Soda City connector
We
to
definitely
your operations?
promote that as part of our overall package. So transportation is a huge part of the convention sales package as well as the sports sales package. And that goes back to the relationships I was talking about. We will use university shuttles, we will use the Comet, we will listen to what the meeting planner needs in terms of either a shuttle or just, a one way, or whether it's a looping shuttle. And then we'll access those partners and say who can provide the type of service that this meeting planner is looking for. So yes, we use all of those.
Because I think the Soda City connector needs to be more effective.
Yeah.
But I think it would make sense to work with y'all for a long-term
would.
connectivity.
There are times when a specific convention or conference needs transportation and the shuttle's schedule or route might not match what that client needs, and we have to go out and rent motor coach buses to move them around.
I would say just keep that in mind as you move
Yeah,
forward, because I
okay.
think you're gonna see more USC, if not all USC transit activities taken over by the Comet. I think we're gonna see a reworking of the entire
That'd be
transit
great.
system.
That'd be great.
So any way that it can work into the tourism point-to-point connectivity, I think is important, and it's a no-brainer.
Right.
I agree.
It's another
100%.
piece of the big puzzle.
And we do include in our visitor's guide that we publish every year, Insider's Guide, we do have a page dedicated to that, sharing information with visitors about the SodaCat connector, how they can get around in the city. We also have all that information at our visitor center, so anyone stopping by,
I think we've failed, and I don't think we're ever gonna succeed at getting the average day-to-day resident to go from home to office, but city center, as residents grow, downtown in our urban core, and tourism grows, I think that's where you're gonna see, outside of the workforce,
Right.
that's the biggest ridership increases
I
that
agree.
go back.
Were there any questions on the bookings of the conventions? Visitor center.
Yeah, the visitor center is about 7 years old. And continues to grow in terms of people coming in and needing information. We're selling some products and goods there now that, not a lot, but 18,000 compared to it was 0 is helpful. But, the visitor center is at the end of Lincoln Street, right beside the Longhorn Steakhouse. And, it's a site that was unsightly at one time. It looked at the loading dock of the Longhorn and had just ugly stuff to look at. So I think what's there now is beautiful and upgrades the experience of the city. And Larkin is our manager there and does an excellent job welcoming visitors and getting involved with the community events.
And this is just a little bit about our marketing and communications. So I serve as a VP of Marketing and Communications, and I have the opportunity to work with each of those 3 different branches of our organization on their paid space advertising, on the outreach to meeting, to travel writers and communications outreach. And so I can share a little bit about that. So here are just a couple of samples of some of our advertising. On the left, you'll see a print ad. We run these in a variety of different publications. This one is one that might appear in a Southeastern regional lifestyle magazine. The 2 on the right are billboards. We have digital billboards in Greenville, Augusta, Charlotte, Charleston, and on all the interstates leading into Columbia. We run those 365 days a year. We also have a co-op program with our billboard marketing where our local partners can purchase those through us at a very, very low rate. So for example, St. 5 Points is one of our co-op partners. We will run their creative. Riverbank Zoo is a partner, we'll run their State Museum. Any partner who wants to promote to tourists, we offer that through our co-op, as well as a number of other co-op opportunities through digital marketing. Earned media, these are just a couple of examples of articles that appear. Our communications team, Charlene Slaughter and Dana Cantelme, are out at different media events, meeting with travel writers. They go to New York, they go to Atlanta, they go to Chicago, they have one-on-one desk sides. They bring in travel writers to our region, set up wonderful tours for them to spend 2 and 3 days in the destination. And we have lots of wonderful results from that outreach. We have done a number of special projects that we're really proud of. We worked with WNBA superstar Aaliyah Boston for a year-long partnership. Aaliyah came into market several different times throughout the year. We did some great photo shoots with her. She made some appearances to our meeting and conventions and sporting events, potential clients. And she did some Instagram posts on what she loves about Columbia, where she likes to eat, things she likes to do. That was a lot of fun. We also are working with NIL. So we work with a couple of different student athletes each year over at the University of South Carolina, looking at the possibility of expanding that into other schools with athletes who can tell us why they came to Columbia or why they love Columbia or what they like to do when they're here. We work with Joyce Edwards from the women's basketball team and Mazio Bennett with the football team this year, and some videos that they did were really cute. The photo on the right, to your right, is a Garden and Gun dinner that we did in Atlanta. We invited about 20 different influencers and travel writers in the Atlanta market. We had Chef Sarah Simmons and Aaron Hoskins prepare dinner for them. Everyone was raving about it. We've had some success from these travel writers and influencers writing about Columbia or coming for a media visit as a result of that day. So that was it was at the Garden and Gun Club near the Braves Stadium in Atlanta. So that was a lot of fun, and just looking at innovative ways to get the message out there, not just sending an email to a travel writer and saying, hey, have you heard of Columbia? We're trying to get in front of them in really creative ways by showcasing all the things that make Columbia special, like our culinary talents and the different things that go along with that. And then we do have a number of different websites. So the ColumbiaSCTourism.com is our stakeholder-facing website. That is a website for you. That's where we put all of our annual reports, all of our numbers for all of the different organizations within the region. We put press releases up there. We put testimonials from clients and customers. If you ever have somebody that's like, I don't know what this Experience Columbia SC is, I don't know what they do, that would be a good place to send them. Then we have our 3 consumer-facing websites. So the ExperienceColumbiaSC.com, that is for the CVB. That is for anybody who's a leisure traveler coming in, a meeting a convention planner who's looking to plan something in the Columbia region. That is a great place for them to start. Our ColumbiaSCSports.com, that is for sports events planners, and that will have information for them on how to get started planning, and I've done with Scott and his team. And then ColumbiaConventionCenter.com is our consumer-facing website for the convention center itself. And it has floor plans, it has 360 tours of the rooms, it will have all of the information, it will connect them with menus, anything that a convention center customer would need to plan their event. So this is where you will find all of our information, and hopefully that will be a little helpful as to getting people where they need to go. And that,
Do you feel like there's a calendar of events that,
we have several calendars of events.
okay, and
So
the
I can go to those if you'd like. So on the ExperienceColumbiaSC.com, we have our visitor calendar of events. So that is where any different festival event, 5 Points Association can go online and put St. Pat's in 5 Points. They can put other festivals that are happening in 5 Points. They can log into their account. Everyone has an account with us, and they can go on, or we can put it on for them if they're not sure how to do it. So all of the different art exhibits, things that are happening at the zoo, brew at the zoo, wine tastings all around town. Anything that would be applicable to someone visiting Columbia, that's going to be on our visitor calendar of events on ExperienceColumbiaSC.com. On the convention center calendar of events, it's events happening at the convention center that are open to the public. We would not put somebody's wedding on the convention center calendar of events, but if it's a boat show, or if it's something a home and garden show, something like that.
Comic-Con.
Comic-Con, yeah, exactly. Those would be on the convention center calendar of events. And if it's a sporting event at the convention center, it would also be there as well. So those are the calendars that we operate.
The reason I'm asking, it may be room for another calendar. Over the years, there's been a calendar that the city contracted with to manage different events and get the word out about things going on in Columbia specific, which probably captured some of the things you're saying. So I'm just asking because of overlap. There's a recent request about doing some type of more interactive experience on an influencer who's interested, obviously our marketing and branding. So I think for I want to speak for the council, but just because of the extensive nature of the marketing and branding and obviously the role that you all play, I'm just trying to connect dots and not, have duplicative efforts, but also funnel these requests. But I do hear sometimes still from community, like, what is it? How do I go to one-stop shop to find out what to do, whether it's a visitor or someone who's already.
That's what I
Probably would have
Yeah.
what they're looking for,
Mhm.
unless, and I will say, what we do decline is things like book signings or summer camps, things like that, would not be on there for locals, because
Correct.
our money has to go towards marketing 50 or more miles out. So that is our audience. And so we kind of ask ourselves the question, if I were visiting Columbia from Augusta or from Greenville or from Charleston or from New York City, would I consider this as something that I might like to do?
Correct.
And so that's the lens through which we evaluate those.
Yeah.
And so I would just encourage y'all to go to that calendar. If you see things that are missing, we're always happy to add them. So if it's an exhibit or a festival or an event or a wine tasting, those are all things that would qualify. And if we've missed, we have somebody who's dedicated to the calendar and putting things on. And
We have
so-
over 2,200 partners that we help promote. It's
So with that same lens, the ambassadors that you have, how do they further amplify the effort
Absolutely.
that you're
So-
talking about, because again, sometimes we'll get, like right now, this request or another opportunity, which our marketing and communications internal team has suggested, we need to maybe connect this particular request with what y'all are doing in that regard. Because it's kind of that, where they would be out and about and they would, real-time experiences share from a tourism
So
standpoint.
our ambassador program is in its 7th year. I will say it has gained a huge amount of momentum over the last 3 or 4 years. And we select 4 local individuals who are really plugged into the community to serve as ambassadors for the region. And the way they help amplify our message is if you have somebody from the Tourism Bureau who is saying, you need to come and try this, it doesn't have the weight as if you have someone with impartiality who is explaining that to their audience. And also, we want a more diverse audience of people. So if we have ambassadors, and we try to take care to select ambassadors who are interested in a variety of different things. So one year we may have somebody like Mike Mayo with Palmetto Outdoor, who is really into the outdoors and knows the rivers like the back of his hand and can speak to that. And so if we have a travel writer coming from a river magazine or an outdoor publication, we might connect him with Mike and say, hey, go have coffee with Mike, and then float down the river. And so we do those types of things to try to amplify the experience, because if we're putting together the agenda and we're just saying, we're going to send you on a river tour, and it's with a guide that has no idea what we do, it's just, you're missing something. So we took this as an opportunity to really use these ambassadors and as an extension of our team. And so they each have their own social channels that they promote things on, or if they're out and about at a ribbon cutting, or if they're out and about at the Columbia Museum of Art is having an opening for an exhibit, they may snap a picture and say, I'm at the Columbia Museum of Art opening for the Monet exhibit. Y'all should check it out. It's amazing, and tag Experience Columbia SC. So those types of things are how we would use that to amplify, because then that person's followers and fans may then say, hey, I want to follow this Experience Columbia SC. They're plugged into, my friend so-and-so, who's also plugged into the community. And we have just really noticed that it has amplified the way that we're able to reach not only tourists, but also we talk so much about local pride, about how important that is to tourism. We cannot spend dollars on that, but we can certainly do something to help that. And I think the ambassador program is kind of our gift to the community to say, we're really not spending advertising dollars on this. Everyone who's an ambassador is a volunteer, and they do this for
When we first started, we had to really go out and convince people to be one that, they didn't really understand it, and we had to look for people. Now we're at the point where we don't look for them. They come to us and say, hey, I'd like to do this. I love my city and I enjoy this and that. I want to do it. So
We may connect. I'm just
Yeah,
kind of
love
planting
that.
the seed so
And I
we
will
can
say,
met
we
this
plan
other-
way in advance because of some of the photography and editorial deadlines that we work on with our ambassadors. So on May 1st, you'll see the ambassador nomination form come out on our website. We'll get that out through some of the local Chicola Today and Cola Daily and all of that. But people can nominate a friend that may want to be an ambassador, and we may have 100, 200 nominations, and then we go through all the social media channels, make sure that we're vetting that people are providing positive recognition for the region. So,
Thank y'all.
thank you.
so much.
Hey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you all, and Kelly. Our next presentation is the Public Art Program Review and Projections. I know we have Mr. Scott Garrick, Strategic Initiative Administrator, here to assist with this presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, giving us a few minutes to go over the public art program that has been with us for about 2 years, what's been accomplished so far and what we project upcoming. So it's a public art program. A recent definition of public art from Ixia is public art is a process of engaging artists' ideas in the public realm. We've got a few examples of what we have rolled out through the public art program, Columbia Streams Art, the lower left being Urban Canvas, which are the movable canvases that are printed on banner material and can go from different locations. There's the larger Urban Canvas, the 20 by 24 one, which is in the Columbia Convention Center. And then at the Experience Columbia Information Center, we've got one of the mini libraries that has been placed there, and then also another mini library that has been placed in a local business, the Beauty Shop. So this, and you have this in your book, this is a pretty dense amount of information. It is information about the program and how it started and the initial funding of $200,000. To date, more than 45 local artists have been directly paid, have been commissioned and paid for the work that they've contributed, the creative content that have gone into things like the trout, the turtles, the urban canvases. And then down at the bottom is a list of the local businesses and organizations that have taken part of the program. And I'm happy to say that as of yesterday afternoon, I got a text and there's one more to add to that. We'll talk about them later. And here's a list of the commissioned local artists so far, broken out between the different projects. The 26 artists who were paid and commissioned to paint the different trout, the different urban canvas artists. The urban canvas artists received honorariums because they did not really have to create anything new to contribute to the urban canvases. So they got honorariums for existing work. They just had to make sure that we got a high resolution image that could be put on one of those canvases and blown up really large. Then our 10 turtle artists, which has been pretty much the most recent portion of the project that has been completed. The 2 different local artists who contributed to the Ripple Awards, and then upcoming anywhere from 18 to 20 local artists who are going to receive $500 to $1,500 through the micro grants. And so the first 2 years of program, we had the 36 trout sculptures. Again, 26 were painted by local artists and the rest were done by art students at our learning institutions, Benedict College, USC, Columbia College, Lenoir-Rhyne, as well as some of our high schools. And at the very beginning of this program, when it was first announced and there was a little bit of media attention, a story that came out in the Free Times, we experienced some pushback. We experienced a little bit of heartburn from Columbia's creative community, from the artists who really pushed back and, resented the idea of the city of Columbia getting involved with public art and trying to come up with a new program. Pretty much a lot of that resentment and pushback evaporated with the trout. The trout were great ambassadors for the program, the 36 trout. And we put up an application on the city website. We announced through the PR department did a great job pushing it out through social media, at a press conference and through local media that we wanted local artists to take home a trout, 6 foot tall, blank white trout sculpture, and paint them themselves. And that we were paying them. We paid them a $1,500 commission each. Just as soon as those trout started landing in studios and garages and apartments, and those artists started working on them, they started spreading the word. They did our work for us in building out the goodwill towards this program. Hey, I've got this, and you want one of these too, and this is where you're going to go to the city website to to apply to get your own trout. So at that point, a lot of the ill will and a lot of the resentment and the mistrust started to evaporate. You could say that maybe it's because we started paying them, but they had a lot of fun. And they spread things on social media. They had TikToks, they had Instagram reels as they were doing the work on the trout. We've got the newspaper vending boxes, which are hand-painted. They're actually reproductions of vending boxes, but they're the same size. And they came in 3 colors, red, yellow, and green. They were hand-painted by students at Parks and Recreation after-school facilities, and they're repurposed as mini libraries. We have placed about a dozen of them so far, and they actually are in all 4 city council districts. The great majority of them are intended for young readers. But we do have one that is at the Lurie Senior Center that was painted by a senior artist in a senior art class that is out front of the Lurie Senior Center now with information and material for seniors. The urban canvases, again, they are large movable canvases, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Mayor, but local artist Stephen Chesley came up with this idea.
Yep.
Talked with Mayor Rickaman about it and said, hey, let's try this. He says it's his idea, and we have no reason to think otherwise. He calls
Hey,
it,
if he stole it for somebody, I cheer him for taking it on and actually making something happen with it, because it's an easy way for us to transfer art and spread it around the community and create a little, game with it.
yeah, he calls them the anti-murals. Murals are great. They, cover up a blank space with some type of artistic vision, but the problem is they don't move. They're static. They stay there. The urban canvas is we get images from artists, and we print them on and it's basically banner material, and we can make them any size we want. They're generally grommeted for easy hanging, and then the biggest problem is finding the space to put them, and then they move around. The first one went up at the Art Bar. The larger version of that is the one that is at the Convention Center. New one was created and debuted on the side of Todd and Moore last fall. That one has recently moved and is now in Cottontown. And there are a few more that are being created. I'm going to have a little bit of information about the newest one coming next. We provide funding for the first 2 Soda City Poetry Festivals. A portion of that funding, again, directly went to artists, to poets. One of the initial components of the public art program was a $50,000 contribution to the Ernest Finney Cultural Arts Center. Again, the micro grants, we are going to have an independent jury panel. We have a rubric for what qualifies for the micro grants. An independent jury panel will review those to distribute funds to artists. So far, we've got about 19 applications. We were hoping for 20. Then there was an artist roundtable at Stormwater Studios on August 22nd. As we'll see later, it's a date that I can't forget, where Mayor Rickenman and Xavier Blake sat down for breakfast at Stormwater, and we had a gathering of artists to come and listen, to come and talk, to come and express a little bit of anger, but also throw out some ideas of what they wanted from the city. And then the
Todd, what
Yes.
was the level of anger?
Well, some of it, I'll have to say, I think was a little bit realistic. It's understandable from their point of view, and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, the main thing they said, well, just give us money. What we need is money because we're starving artists. And but one of the things that they did ask for, and they really communicated, was they wanted studio space. They wanted places to do their work. They were tired of working in their apartments. They were tired of creating artwork, in their living spaces. And since that time, we have seen that there's been an expansion of artist studio space.
The biggest thing is, y'all incentivize all the other businesses, why don't you incentivize ours? And one of the things we tried to do this winter was rent out a space to allow them to have a free place to show their artwork and sell for the holidays, and it didn't work out, so we're still gonna try to push that. But also, we reached out to the real estate community and said, hey, y'all got empty spaces, let some of these artists. And we took, Mr. Simons opened up the space at Taylor Street Garage. So there are 2 artists working out of there, the free space for them to work out of, but just a way to try to do some things and contribute. And I mean, just writing a check doesn't excite me. Having something where we see give back, I think it is important in how it interacts in creating that space. So we're going to continue to work with them. I think they've come around. I think there was a lot of negativity, and it was probably driven from a couple people who were the ringleaders of that, just because, they wanted certain things to go in certain directions, and we're trying to expand it and do more out there. And I say that because, one of the things you saw on there was the Ripple Award design, and one of the things that I challenged our community to do is help me design an honor, something beyond the key to the city and something beyond a proclamation, so that somebody who just has an extraordinary contribution to our community. And it's not something that we give out every day. I mean, it's application driven, and we may not give one out a year, but we may give out 4 one year or 3. This fall, we want to debut to have the initial class. And this was actually 2 different medals that we had the artists come together and put together in one, but this is what it's going to look like. And part of that was to really have not only our community involved, but a way to recognize these contributions that somebody has given, so we could create something, but getting them involved in that process. And both of them that came we liked, so we asked them, could we merge them together? And that's what we ended up doing.
And one of the artists that are in those the 2 studio spaces at the garage is Victoria Rickards, who is a turtle artist.
Yeah.
So this is something that really touched me and really encouraged me. That was an unexpected outcome from this program, and this is a direct example of what's called placemaking, where you go into the community and utilize artwork to bring the community together. So in Columbia, we have a Ukrainian artist, Jenna Bazali. Jenna's not really her first name. I can't pronounce her first name, and it's got a lot of syllables, so she tells everyone to call her Jenna. She took her blank white trout to the Waverly branch of Richland Library on a Saturday morning, and first she did a little discussion and session about traditional Ukrainian paisanki egg painting with traditional Ukrainian folk art designs, and gave that little handouts of what it looked like. And then she encouraged the community to paint those designs on her trout. There was a really great turnout, and one of my favorite images that has come out of this entire program is that young lady right there. Who was just so dialed in to painting her portion of Jenna's trout. Another example was a local artist who Keith Tolan, here, and then in that third photo, he got a blank white trout. He took it to Hyatt Park Elementary School and worked with the art teacher, and all 400 students at this elementary school have a part in the trout that was created. Had painted designs that went onto that into those trouts. So, examples where 2 local artists went back out to the community for community engagement. And this is just a sampling of different photos from some of the different components of the program. Dreher High School students with their trout, some of the mini libraries that are in the Vista. You can see the newest urban canvas that's on display, and some of the images that are on it, and some of the turtles as well. And in the lower left-hand is Xavier Blake and the mayor at the artist session. So this is a breakdown, and you should have this in your booklets here, of the first $200,000 and how it has been utilized. There is approximately $194,180 has been utilized of that first $200,000 portion, of which a little more than $75,000 was paid directly to artists. So some of the outcomes, again, I think that the city really has a great relationship now with our local arts community. There's been a lot of trust. There's been a lot of enjoyment. Now, when I go to functions, when I go to Soda City, when I go to First Thursday, I'm at the museum. A lot of times local artists will see me and come over and say, what are you guys doing next? Sometimes they throw out ideas. Sometimes they're a little kooky, but sometimes they're pretty solid ideas. So the local arts community is looking to the city to see what we're doing next and wanting to know how they can take part. So it's really been a great trust building and engaging program. We've had a lot of great positive press coverage in print, at our press conferences. The mayor has had some individual interviews. Really good earned media that's come out of it. Last October, at the American Planning Association Conference, which was held in Spartanburg, that's the South Carolina chapter, I presented a session on this program, Planning, Building, and Administering Transformational Public Art Programs. It's a mouthful, I know. Presented that as a planning session. We had pretty good attendance. 15 people attended, which doesn't sound like much, but the room was at half capacity. And an interesting thing is about a year ago, I attended a national planning conference in Minneapolis of the American Planning Association and was able to speak with Alex Smith, who is the director of the Philadelphia Arts Commission. And I grabbed him, sat down with him to have coffee, really wanted to pick his brains and get a lot of ideas. He ended up asking me a lot of questions about what we were doing. And after we exchanged some conversation and he asked how large our staff was, and I said, we were pretty much having coffee with the entire staff. He said, he was complimentary, but he said basically all the different components, all the different things that this program is doing, he said really encompasses what his entire staff is doing. I think he was being a little bit complimentary, but still. We have some different quotes that I think really help summarize what this program is about and trying to accomplish. From Stephen Chesley, we are launching this entire idea of cultural awareness and development for all citizens to increase the quality of life. That was his statement at the opening press conference in October of 2023. Della Watkins, we had a press conference in a gallery at the museum about this time a year ago, where we had all 36 trout on display, who said at the heart of this project are the artists. And then when we had a press conference in front of St. John's Baptist Church for the rollout of the mini libraries, Reverend Dr. Jamie O'Graham. This mini library will allow many of our children to mentally go far and wide and prepare them to be the great speakers, leaders, movers, and shakers of our community. And if I can take a moment.
Scott, may I ask
Yes, sir.
about the program? Has that program progressed?
The mini libraries?
Yeah.
We continue to place them. We've got about 10 that are ready to go, and we continue to find new locations to place in communities throughout the city.
Okay.
So anyone who's got an idea, I mean, they're in community centers, they're in apartment complexes at, in the community gathering spaces. They're at early learning centers. There's two in the Vista. There's the one at the Lurie Senior Center. The most recent one has been placed out in the Galaxy community, District 4. But one of the really unexpected outcomes from this program that for me has been very important. I mentioned on August 22nd, that was the Artists Forum at Stormwater Studios. During that session, we were told that an artist later that evening was going to have an opening, Gallery 701 Whaley Street. And so that evening, I didn't really want to go. It had been a long day of work, and I didn't want to put my clothes back on and have to go back to work. But I said, okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go see this opening and talk to some artists and things. And as I was walking in the building, I met a woman who was coming in also, and found out she was a longtime member of the arts community. She used to own one of the most prominent galleries in the Vista. She knows a lot of artists and is very, very informed of the arts community. She and I spoke a lot throughout the evening. We went to lunch a week later in November. I asked her to marry me, and she said yes.
Yeah, I thought the story was getting good, I just hope you did that.
Okay. And some of you on council have met her, the mayor has met her, and Councilman Bailey met her at an art opening just a few weeks ago.
The dating game, baby.
So we met at 7:01. You can probably easily guess where the ceremony is going to take place. You're all invited. But I think it's really a great example that good things happen to those of us who work for the city of Columbia.
All right. So, you know, part of this program, you know, at the end of the day, we have a bunch of other ideas that we really want to push forward. So one of the things we're asking for is another $200,000 to put into this program. And some of it's going to be focused on doing some neighborhood art. Really trying, especially where we're investing, where we're building homes, where we're rebuilding parks, adding some more art in there.
That's right.
That we can also continue the partnership with our parks and recs and interact with those young folks. The other thing that we want to do, and I saw this overseas and I thought it was a really cool idea, is they created these custom frames in areas that are TikTok or Instagram, where you could have this frame that's framed in the city colors and it's got some design to it that you could turn around and maybe you're on Main Street and you could take a picture of the Vista in one direction, the State House in the background in the other, but spreading it around between our rivers and our scenic areas and our parks and Bull Street, and make it a contest for people to be able to go out there and get their picture made throughout the city in different places, but a way to, you know, much like they did in Nashville and these other places with the butterflies, and making it kind of iconic that we have these beautiful points, if it's the Horseshoe or if it's State House or if it's, you know, down by our riverfront, having that. So there are a lot of programs where we want to continue to engage our artists, but also engage our public in that. So at the end of the day, guys, we want to ask for another $200,000 for this program.
So some of the continuing components from that initial outlay of funds, like I said, we have more of the mini libraries. We have about 10 more of the mini libraries to place throughout the community. We are continuing to create and find exhibition spaces, exterior exhibition spaces, new urban canvases. We beginning to build a bank of artwork from local artists, but this is really exciting. This is the text that I got yesterday, confirmation of a new space. That image that you see there, that purplish image, is from a street muralist, Muhammad Awudu, I hope I got his name right, in Accra, Ghana. That image was streamed to us. And as of yesterday, I got confirmation from the owner of Cola's Restaurant on Assembly Street that he would like for there to be an urban canvas created that's going to hang on the side of his building. There is an alleyway with really easy view from Assembly Street on the side of Cola's Restaurant. So we're going to do, the estimate is probably 7 feet tall, 12 feet wide, that image, and that will be the next urban canvas that will go up.
Which, you know, having a great opportunity once again with our sister city, and one of our trout, which one we don't know yet, but one of our trout's going to make it way to Kaiserslautern, Germany, to our sister city there in celebration of their 250th? No,
Chesley told me, but he said a lot quickly.
250 years of their existence.
Yeah.
I actually think it's longer than that. But, you know, it's been 25 years we've had this program, but the trout is actually a symbol of their community. And so we're going to send one of the trout from here. Which one, I don't know yet, because I have to figure out which one we're going to donate, but it will head over there and be part of their downtown for the future.
So let me ask you a management question. Who manages the little libraries?
It depends. It depends on the relationship that we have with who we give them to, or the site where they're placed. For the most case, it's them. You know, the mini library is supposed to be self-sustaining, like all these mini libraries that you see throughout communities. Now, for some of them, the one at St. John's Prep, they have twice reached out to me and said, we're out of books, and I've got a stockpile of children's books. We had a book drive here at City Hall. You may remember when piles and piles of books were downstairs in the lobby. So those are all stored now at Support Services, and I'll take books out to them. And I have kind of like done a circuit on a regular basis to visit some of these to make sure they're well stocked. The ones in the Vista, the two that are in the Vista, at the Experience Columbia Welcome Center, I have restocked them about 4 times since I first placed them right before Christmas.
Right. Let's be mindful of managing them and keeping up with them.
Sure. Well, we don't want them to sit empty.
Well,
Part of it is people take one, bring one, take one,
That's
bring
right.
one, do it.
That's
And in
right.
some areas, people are just taking it. But
And
I'm
not
excited that the kids at St. John's are taking them because they're thirsty to read them. And so we've had a lot of book artists reach out and donate as well. You know, it's a great way for them to get it out.
So, Mr. Mayor, with the next round of funding, you know, as corridors, Garner's Ferry, for example, grow with more residential development, HOAs, I see this as a good way to connect to those developments, because right now there's not a lot of connectivity with these new growing subdivisions and outreach to the city from my
You
experience.
thinking of a piece of public art
I
or
do,
something
like,
that
I think,
engages their residents in it?
yeah, would be something good, because there's a lot of new rooftops in the northeast and out east in the districts. And this might be a good way to just connect. I know it's not officially a Parks and Rec facility or anything, but there are a lot of residents.
But there's a way to do that. And one of the things that we got a lot of requests from is some of the communities wanted to do something in like an empty lot and make it a project for the community to put together so that everybody has a stake in it, you know, and they share in the painting of it or the design of it or something. So I think it's a great idea.
And maybe teaming with an artist to do something like that.
Yeah, have an
In
artist be the
Burnside or
driver,
something.
yeah. That's a good place to do it because it's pretty drab out there.
Thank you.
Good.
Here's some of the new things that are already in the works. The 10 turtles that have already been painted made their debut at Artista Vista earlier this month. Todd Martin, who's the parks designer, came to me and said he had a big wall at Finley Park that he just didn't know what to do with. Love the art, love the turtles, which were briefly stored, all 10 of them in my office. as part of the wall.
So most of that's.
Sorry. So, the 10 turtles are going to be mounted on a wall just below the ranger station at Finley Park, and Todd is very, very excited about this. We've had 2 site visits out there.
Right there.
So, we are going to be publishing the first City of Columbia coloring book. A lot of the illustrations are coming from local artists. Some of the illustrations are going to be done by the PR department. This is, and a really, really big project is we are planning a mural that'll be painted around the top of the Columbiana Center Mall food court. We've had several meetings with Mitchell Whitting, who is the general manager of Columbiana
He
Center.
reached out to us to try to figure out how to do this project.
That is a big project because that is an enormous amount of space.
Are you sending them to One Columbia, like to?
They're coordinating,
manage this
yeah, so
one?
a lot of it's been coordinated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've met with Xavier several times, I believe. Some of this, we're coming in from a funding capacity. The food court mall, the agreement is they pay half, we pay half, because it is a lot of space. And what we are thinking of, he wanted to have a skyline, Columbia skyline. Yes.
I just had a question about
Sure.
the coloring book. Is it, will it be for all ages or just for young adults.
Well, I think that illustration right there is a good example of what everything is going to look like.
So that's for everybody.
I think so.
Adults.
It's a
color
stress
too.
relief.
It is. I did it this weekend.
I like my number.
Um,
I like it numbered. Like one is green, this is very good.
Color scheme, my color scheme is awful.
We are also going to hold the first, Columbia's first smartphone filmmaking competition, Columbia Celebrates Cinema. I have spoken with Nickelodeon Theater, and they would love to have a weekend where they show the winning entries, premiere them on a Friday night in one of the theaters, and then the following Saturday matinee. So Justin and I have had many conversations about how to pull this off. And we've really got a pretty good plan for this, and we're going to make an announcement probably mid to late summer and open the entry process for people to make smartphone cinema films. And then we'll have a judging selection of them. About $15,000 is dedicated from the funding for the different prizes for the winners, and then again, they would premiere at Nickelodeon Theater. And then we're partnering with Beer Keller. The mayor mentioned earlier about, we tried to have a holiday market for artists, and it was a great idea. We kind of thought of too late. We cooked up the idea here in this room, I think, what was it, September, in a meeting with Xavier Blake and Peyton as well. A lot of great ideas were thrown out. Let's have a pop-up holiday market. We just simply weren't able to pull it together. We actually came up with the real estate space a couple of different places, but a lot of artists by that time of the year are already committed for where their artwork is going to be for the holidays, and we just couldn't really bring in enough artists. So what we're going to do, I've already spoken with Beer Keller a couple times. They had their first German-style holiday market, which was out on the plaza in front of Beer Keller last Christmas, which I bought some items there, some Christmas items there off my shopping list. We're going to partner with them that we are going to go and, the program will rent some of the spaces and then we'll allow artists to come in and utilize those spaces as to sell their artwork as part of the holiday market. I want to close out with this really great statement that was made by local poet Christine Hartvigsen. She provided a poem for what was some poetry, for one of the urban canvases, and she came to the press conference to speak. This was a much, much longer quote, it's of a full page, and I really condensed it. I would like to thank Mayor Rickenmann and the City of Columbia for their support of the arts and for their untiring efforts to bring all forms of art before the eyes of citizens who may not otherwise experience it. I can express how lovely it is to be included in a project that many eyes will see. Inclusion truly is priceless. It is vital that artists who toil daily at work that comes from deep in their souls are seen by a city that benefits from their presence, that acknowledges their value. This project, Columbia Streams Art, is a love letter and a gift to all.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. Thanks for all your hard work. Scott really has really handled all of this, and it's been great to have somebody linked in to the art community and allowing us to try some different things that are engaging our community, and hopefully they just keep getting better.
So Mayor, this will be the second year we've funded.
So we did it 2 years ago.
So 2 years ago, so let me ask you something. Don't you think, is there a way to try and match this public funding up with some foundation funding to go from 200 to 400? I know that's always.
I'm gonna be out of town on Saturday with Bloomberg, and Jamie Levin's gonna be there, and that's from Bloomberg Philanthropies. And I've been talking to her because now we can show them we actually did something.
Absolutely.
How we can get some matching money.
That'd be great, thanks.
Hey, can we take a break?
You all need a,
Missy and I, we try to time these things out, but it was all great information, but
I need y'all to be attentive and fresh to the actual budget presentation. All the
7 minutes.
presentations were great though, but
More than 7
a little
minutes.
longer than I thought.
I thought, I was wondering. What was that?
You take a little while.
art request will come up when we walk you through some of the other, external requests. That's more of an internal request, obviously. And there, you have this, outline of a spreadsheet of some of the requests. We're not gonna start with that, but if you wanna find it in your materials, and we will need to update the Columbia Streams art line to reflect 200,000. I think when we were initially talking,
I don't see that sheet.
we, had 150, Mr. Mayor, but we know it is 200, that's the
I never
request.
looked at that sheet.
So Missy's gonna start us
Thought she
off
put it in the
with
packet, but it's-
our information for today. A lot of it is follow-up from the last time that we met on the 15th.
Yes, ma'am.
So, your memo that was sent over the weekend,
Let me know.
kind of walks through Missy's PowerPoint as well. So I'll let her take it from there and I'll chime in kind of as we go through these items.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson, and thank you, City Council, for enduring a very informative afternoon of hearing about different tourist and cultural activities in Columbia, which are always great to hear about, especially, and now we'll talk about the funding that helps make some of these things happen, which is vital and important to our community as well. So, although I lost the crowd, so maybe that means everybody heard all the good stuff. So, all right. So thank you very much, and we will move through this fairly quickly so we can entertain your questions and discuss what we need. So we have, we'll start off with hospitality tax, just revisiting some information that we shared with you last week. And I know that part of our conversations was maybe a little concerning about the fact that the the budget that we have projected for hospitality, we are recommending at this point to remain flat. And really that is as much a reflection of the fact that this year's projections were pretty aggressive. We had done some collecting, some backup collections, if you will. So the collections this year were pretty aggressive. So right now we're just recommending to stay flat. That doesn't mean that there's, concern as much as it is. It's just really, it's a reflection of revenue projections, and prior year collections. So we are projecting at this point to remain flat. We will revisit it again before we actually advertise the budget and see if there's any additional adjustments we want to make. I do have on the slides for you, it's not in your memo, but it was in your slides, information on revenue collections by hospitality district that was requested from City Council last week. And of course, you can see, and it does have year-over-year collections by those different areas. And so there are, 4 main hospitality districts, which are wide encompassing. And then those that are in the NA section are in the areas outside of those hospitality districts. But also includes things such as, food trucks and those other type of entities that come into town, catering events that may come into town that are not part of, may not have a brick and mortar location in Columbia, but have an event in Columbia. I'd also want to make sure we note out that the fiscal year 24-25 is only through March 31st. So whereas the other years are multiple year, or are the full year collections. So does everybody have a copy of the PowerPoint slides?
I don't know.
See if folks.
Yeah, we need to get reoriented.
I got that.
I don't,
With everything.
I don't think we have PowerPoint.
Yeah, it's the last item in tab 3.
Yeah, it's behind the neon green page.
Just said it.
Give everybody a chance to catch up. So that's the information on the collections by district that was requested.
I know, and we're not using it.
just said it.
That's the.
The external requests are outside of the age test.
This is here, right here, right? Yeah.
Right here. I have to find a way to spend this money.
So on the H-Tax program, again, just, so the budget now is reflected and reflects the allocation for the H-Tax committee, which is 3.9 million. It's a 5% increase over the current year budget. So right at 190,000, which will be pretty significant for that committee. That'll be a nice generous bump. That committee meets next week. Line item agencies, again, the allocation for line item agencies was also adjusted by 5% for an allocation of 3 million. They have requested a total of 3.4 million. Staff is not assuming how much of that 5% will be spread across the line item agencies. Those would be for city council consideration, but that is reflected in the total funding available for line item agencies. You have the line item agency request in your packet from last time. If you do need another copy of those, let us know. And those allocations, again, are made by city council. Okay? Next, we'll talk a little bit about some of the other items that are for council consideration, that are things that are funded historically by the city through our hospitality tax programs. That includes the Parks and Recreation Foundation. That would be for events that are really city-sponsored or city-hosted type events. The Parks and Recreation Foundation helps to facilitate that activity. River Alliance, that would be for the contracted services that the city utilizes. River Alliance in support of the Three Rivers activities that occur.
Does that include the conversation of the unison marketing?
We need to talk about that.
It's a little different, but yes. Columbia Streams Art, we're reflecting here at 150 because that was what we had some discussions, but I know today the discussion was for 200,000. And then City Center Partnership, that is a request of 120, which is a $20,000 increase over the current year. And that's for a pilot program for expansion of their services, of their patrol services outside of the district.
And I think we need to have a conversation about that because I looked through what they presented and I think it's a little heavy.
Okay.
It's got a management fee in there on top of 2 supervisors, and I don't see how expanding the clean and safe into the Elmwood corridor and North Main need to have uploaded charges, extra management fee and everything. So I think we need to have a conversation with Matt about that.
Is that the additional 20,000, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
So it may be helpful, Mr. Mayor and Council, and I'm gonna come back to that specific item.
Okay.
But you may wanna have this out as we're going through the presentation, just so you see where we put it on this particular list. And then in addition to that, these were meant to have come to you over the weekend, but I think we had a technical difficulty. I'm not sure if they were in your package or not, but all of the reference requests we're gonna talk about, you have this now, we're behind this stack, so that request from CCT about the expanded is in here as well, and their, what the mayor is referencing in regards to their request, should be the last item in this package, I think.
I have a process question for I'm sure we get external requests all the time. Is there a triage process before it comes to us, or you just bring forward everything that's been asked?
I pretty much bring forward what's been asked, there've been years, and we're doing this way this year, but there've been years where the council may have allocated community promotions type funding, like for a pot of funds. We didn't do that last year. Not sure if you'll wanna do it going into this budget cycle for, some type of process, to your point, Dr. Bustles, for next year sometime. Sometimes if we do that, sometimes you all have a theme around it, like you might want it to be about, youth, I don't know, or seniors, or sometimes it doesn't have any type of theme. These particular requests, to me, to have a theme around either workforce development initiatives, youth development initiatives, et cetera, and they're things that either I know the requests have also come to you, a majority of them, or either they've just come direct to us, but they have some tie to those similar themes. So what I put in the memo was that we don't wanna ever assume that, you know, we don't want these similarly themed things to be duplicative in effort, so we just kinda give them to you so y'all can take a look at them and we'll sort it out the best way we can. But the actual requests, if we've gotten anything, are in this packet. And as to the CCP expansion, I think maybe what happened too, if I had to guess, when they originally responded to do that and that additional Elmwood, Downworth, Maine, there was a vehicle purchased, I think, to help with that.
Okay.
And so that initial, 120 or thereabouts, 100. What I think happened is that's a one-time request, right? So then by the next year, I was asking some questions too about, well, so it should be a lower amount because the truck or whatever was already funded, but I think maybe they just included a request now that had more staff, et cetera, to make up for the amount that had been spent on the vehicle, if I had to guess. No one really suggested it be done that way, because it could have just been a lower amount.
Keep that out.
So that is something that we'll have to,
Well, I mean, I just glanced
Address
through
with
it
them.
and definitely, we need that conversation because I don't think that, I mean, you got a clean and safe, a safety, a team leader, an ops supervisor and a manager all getting paid as part of that, which really doesn't really need to be that. And then, tagging on a management fee on top of that, I mean, that management cost has already been built in, so, I just think we need to go back to Matt and tighten that up a little bit.
we have started that conversation, okay? Okay.
All right, so as Ms. Wilson pointed out, those items are in your packets now. You have their actual request in the materials, as well as a summarized list on an external list. Not everything on that list is H-tax eligible or so forth, as much as it is, right now, it's a culmination of requests received to date, as Ms. Wilson has mentioned.
And I think we may have an additional one too, that you can
Just a
add.
quick question, and I should already know this. Have we seen a difference, and I really should know this, with the extended service? I'm going back to downtown, to Matt's group. Or do I need to get some feedback from that?
So I know Chief had stuck his head in the door. I'm not sure if he's in the building or listening on the stream, but
I know they still have.
we always ask him and his folks to weigh in on, that program and how it's been a force multiplier or not for him. Oh, there he is, like magic.
Hello, were you listening?
And I think he said it's helpful, but the Elmwood, it's the CCP extension down into the North Main border.
Mike over here, the mic is over. Sorry,
We're talking about yellow shirts or the yellow shirts?
yellow shirts, effectiveness of the extension.
I think I think whether it's yellow shirts or private security, it's all about managing expectations. Based on our, capacity now, it is helpful in terms of presence, litter abatement, things that are I guess more attached to optics and the feeling of safety. So I think they provide some level of assistance there, but they are absolutely not the police, and they have a completely different function.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, Missy?
All right, moving along. So and let me point out too, so the hospitality tax budget there's funding available for allocation. Not all of it is allocated, so just pointing that out.
Current.
Next year's budget and current year, but next year's budget.
Right.
So state accommodations tax, not much has changed in that discussion as well. We have made the allocations again towards the committee process, which of course is dictated and determined by state law. 5% goes to, 25,000 directly goes to the city's general fund. That's a transfer and already reflected in the budget. 5% is for general purpose, which is right now the source for which we would be able to allocate some of these these activities from. That amount available is, it's a total of 190,000, of which 126 is remaining for allocation for that purpose. One of the things that we wanted to bring forward in this discussion now, but actually would come back again as another time for council discussion, is there is a fund balance available out of state accommodations tax from building some reserves that we have, that city council has sort of worked towards in recent years. One of the projects that we want to take forward to you is as much discussed, bathrooms on the downtown area for tourism and other activities. So in order to do that, we would need to take that request to the Accommodations Tax Committee, because the Accommodations Tax Committee is responsible for reviewing all of these requests prior to those items coming here. So if that is the desire to fund that out of this available fund balance, we would take that when we come.
Absolutely.
So is that carryover fund?
It's money that would be available as a carry forward. So it would not affect next year's budget allocations, but it would be reflected in the next year's budget. That's when you would allocate it.
That's right.
Is in next year's budget as funding from fund balance towards this initiative. But we would put that on the committee, take that to the committee as a request.
Can we do the renovation now, though,
Yes.
Yeah.
and get paid back later? I'm just trying to see, how's it?
Well, the carry forward's available now. That's cash.
Now, okay,
today.
gotcha, perfect.
It is, it's just a matter of getting it before the committee, which the committee will meet next month.
Where is this carryover, right?
Is it enough to pay for
We just have to
what we
get
want,
approved.
as far as the bathroom facilities?
Yes.
We've done that.
That's great.
And we really have that, those funds have a limited time.
We gotta use them.
Yes.
End of the year or what, Missy? What's the time parameter?
We have 2 years to use the funds. So we keep those funds rolling forward, but eventually that's gonna
We're
be
getting
catching
close
up.
on this one, so
Yeah, we need to go.
having this available for this project solves a lot of problems for us.
Yes.
Can we not go ahead and
We can't approve it.
no, we can't approve
No,
it.
the committee has
Next
to.
month.
But we'll wrap all of that
Yeah,
together in there.
right,
Since we're
good.
presenting to the next month, we would be able to do it all at the same time, that it would be at that point in time.
I
we
was
could bring
looking
back
for
city
Henry,
council
but the
for allocation.
staff, they've been doing a lot of due diligence to be ready to do something. There'll be some decision-making too about the location, but he's had some good conversations following up on some. I know the mayor had also had about a potential location in the corridor for the restrooms.
We could time it such that at a May city council meeting, include it there for allocation for
We had
funding.
this conversation about 2 years ago.
Is there any more money left? Like how much? When do we have to spend it by?
June of next year. It has, and
Mark's eligible too, which may help us pay off some stuff earlier too, so.
it just has to go before the committee in order.
We had
for
this
it to-
conversation about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yes, sir. Good memory. Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. We did.
And I think Henry, you were a part of that conversation. Now, what we need to do is, since we're using carryover funds, can we go ahead and just approve this at the appropriate time and get that done?
Yes, sir. We will bring that to you.
All right, good.
And you're gonna cut the ribbons of the new bathrooms?
Yeah.
First flush?
First flush. No, I won't do the first flush. Let me take that back now, not the first flush.
Ed delivering for his district.
Okay. Wow.
Man, you.
I would pay to see.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna put the sign of the
Just,
cross on you.
so many good things happening in District 2 right now.
Are tickling yourself today.
Oh, I was on a roll there for a minute. Got me teared up.
Cheered himself up.
Teared myself up. That doesn't happen often.
It does not. What is
Good Lord.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman Brennan,
Thank
for waking
you.
everybody
Yeah,
back
thank
up
you.
and engaging us in
Right
the
on
I look forward to
time.
looking at those future funds as well.
And to talk about flushing, what kind of going on is that? I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay.
It's just younger- it's just
3:10.
younger generation.
Next
That's what
item.
it is.
Tourism development fee, you all heard today from
called
Experience
holding.
Columbia, so their request from Experience Columbia, remember, is the funding from the tourism development fee, which is our local accommodations tax, is specifically for the operations of the convention center. It is not marketing funds. These are not funds for marketing. That is the state accommodations. These funds are related really more towards services, improving services provided to tourists. So that's where the convention center comes into play. And this is where we have historically funded the convention center from. In this case, they've requested $3 million, an increase of $250,000. You do reflect it's actually $200,000, not, I don't know, whatever that number is on the screen for marketing and promotions. We have continued that in both H-Tax and tourism development fee. And of course, debt service is already programmed into the budget for $872,000, which is split between state and local accommodations tax for the Finley Park redevelopment project. So. Any questions about tourism development fee?
The total request that goes to the CVB, the authority, and everything is 5.6 million.
Right, and then their state accommodations will present to the accommodations tax committee. Those requests will come back to city council following the committee's review. I don't think we have a date set yet for that committee, but it'll be in May. We've done really well. City council's done very well in terms of keeping those committees held before the July 1st date and getting those approvals before July 1, which really helps out those organizations and staff in terms of getting those allocations out before the start of the fiscal year, or, in time for the start of the fiscal year. Last item is then a request from external projects, and just again to clarify, this is not recommendations for where to fund or what to fund. This is just a list. Funding availability is from.
So I thought the Urban League money was the water money.
It is, but, I mean, every year we have this discussion about, programmatic expansions that I guess they do, and what it just requires this defined amount of funding. I mean, I would imagine what we typically put it to when they ask for it is that ongoing summer work institute, or I don't know if that's the exact name of it now, but the summer intern programs for middle high school students, I think is what they typically have when they've drawn down the funds, Mr. Mayor. And so that's not to say that those water bill insert funds couldn't go towards this program, but this.
But are they not doing the
this
other
came-
program? This is the new program?
I don't know if it's new or they've already, I think they've been doing this type of programming.
That's
But when
correct.
they met with us, over the last few months, I asked because there was a discussion about all the different things that they're doing. And so I said, can you probably just need to put in writing to us what your proposal would be and your funding need would be for once and for all. Like, what is the program? Like, what would you,
So this
prefer to
is the
spend
program.
the funding on if there were city funding dedicated to something?
It's almost a continuation of funding, isn't it? It's not
Right
a new-
now,
It's not
we
a new
just-
program.
Well, this is different than from what I read in here, this is different than what we've normally done with the insert money. That's why I'm trying
Yes.
to understand, are we doing two programs or one?
I thought it was one.
I was reading it as 30, it says 30 for year-round and then 100 for summer youth. 100 youth for summer and then 30 for year-round services, so it's two different,
The 30's to hire a part-time according to this.
30 youth,
30 youth.
hiring of 30 youth throughout the year, and then hiring for 100 youth during the summer.
So I think the funding from the summer, for the summer that we've historically used is the water bill insert money, which is usually around 30,000.
33. Yes.
And so that can still be applied to the requested amount.
Right.
But the requested amount obviously is more than what they normally get.
And so are we saying, am I hearing that a total of 100,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means if we apply that, then it's only 70 or so out of this fund.
Correct.
Okay.
That's our interpretation of it, and so we,
Okay.
yeah, and I think
Well, I do,
that's probably what their intention is.
and I do think it needs to be consistent, because for planning purposes for them, because I've had a couple of questions about it.
Yeah, so I'm just glancing through this, just so I make clear, so they're talking about 10 youth participants in this program.
You know, this,
So what it says right here, proposed budget, 33,000 for support of 10 youth participants, stipends and internships. That's what I'm trying to understand. I'm a little confused at what they're doing, because there's a lot of stuff on here. They're talking about job fairs and resume building. Is that for the 10 students? Is that outside of that?
One of the things that was also referenced when we met, and I'm not sure if this is meant to, I guess, supplement other programs that they're doing with other youth. So they said they are they sort of administer the JAG programs in some of the schools in Richland One, and I don't want to say this wrong, but it sounded like they're going into some of the schools where JAG is up and running, which I know that was another funding source from the city for the JAG programs in the schools. And so again, another reason why we're bringing some of these is because as we're meeting with groups about these requests, sometimes it feels like things are tied in together in a certain way. I'm not sure, so.
Yeah.
I do think that they're in the schools doing things too, Mayor, so it could be that there's actually more youth that are assisted, but I can't speak for the details.
so under the budget justification and narrative, that's where they say they're asking for 100 to serve approximately 30 youth participants year round. And
Well, I
100
mean, I guess my question is,
I'm still reading. 100 youth for summer employment, and that 33,000 is stipends for 10 of those. But 10 is not the only, that's not the only. They're trying to reach 100 kids. That's the cost of supporting, because they want to give the kids payment over the summer.
I
So that
get
covers
that,
10 of
I'm still confused at what they're doing. Because I'm looking at the budget based off that, and, we had that specific program we're working with. Now this has got tutoring, workshop, supplies, technology, resume building, counselors, digital promotion, small scale events and arts programming, facility, space rental and utilities. I guess I'm trying to understand what we're actually supporting, because this looks like this can't be the one program, or maybe it is, but if they're gonna do 30, where's the other 300 coming from?
And that's what I was saying, I don't know if it's their touch points in the schools, because they're also doing that, and I don't know if this is meant to, again, supplement their footprint in the schools with programs like JAG that they're also working, or if this is a total standalone.
I thought we could always get some more information on it.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I think that's my question is what I don't wanna end up, what I don't wanna, what I don't wanna end up with is that, they have in here listed the 100 youth summer program that we've supported. Well, we've never collected enough money to support, we've always had to come up with money to do it. So what I wanna make sure is this the single ask, or we being asked to fund both programs?
I thought it was.
Because that one's not gonna be, but
Can we get that clarified or?
Yeah, it needs to be a clarifying statement from JT.
Or we
I mean, it's
can
130
dictate that
kids
it's
they're
just-
talking about.
Or we could dictate,
We
yeah.
can dictate, this is what it is. I mean,
I guess that's what we just need to clarify, you know, this
Do
is
you
what
wanna
we're.
clarify, or do you want us to clarify, or you wanna ask?
I mean, I just think if this is what we wanna support, then this is what we're supporting, there is no other program. I think we,
We were just giving you the $100,000 request
Okay.
with this
Well, I mean, that's-
information and knowing
but
that
the
you
write-up
also have.
description talks about, you know, the 30.
The other thing, yeah.
But it doesn't say anything in the budget proposal about the 100, so to me, I just wanna make sure that we're not gonna be anticipating to spend another 100. Yeah, if you look on this sheet, it talks about 100 summer youth and 30 year round,
total, yes.
Which is from,
so that's 130 kids. I'm trying to do math here and
I'm reading $100,000 total budget request.
yeah, look at the other sheet, look at what is written on the narrative there.
which is from.
I don't think all of them are gonna be getting paid or not paid through this.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure what we're committing to is the only program and that we're not gonna be asked to come up with another $100,000.
That's right.
I don't
Is
think
it
you
possible?
would. You
Mayor,
can only come up with what you can, you know.
is it possible to get a clarifying statement from Mr. McLaughlin?
I'll try my best.
Huh?
I will
You gonna
try
talk
my
to him?
best. Yes, sir, I'm happy to do that.
Or we can just tell us how
Because I
to get.
think
Because usually we don't get a request, it's just the program.
It's just the program.
And then we get a bill afterwards. And that's what I don't want us to happen this year
Well, in the
is,
last couple years, we've just provided the water bill insert funds, whatever that amount was, which is usually around I don't know, we can get you the exact amounts. I don't know if you have them off the top of your head, Missy, the water bill insert
I
money.
don't have it exactly, but we can find out.
Yeah, but we haven't in the last 2 fiscal years done above that, from my
We have
recollection.
not.
Because we had that conversation about, we really need to know ahead of time if it's something. And so the last 2 cycles, it's just, they would draw down the water bill insert funds. But there's always been a discussion about probably,
excuse me. I'm
wanting
sorry.
to be able to do more. And so, this year we met and we got a formal request, and this is it. So from, what I took from that was this
This
is the
is it.
request.
Can we just
100,000.
make sure that's clarified?
Absolutely. Inclusive of whatever the water bill insert
Yeah.
money
Oh,
would be.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put that to it, I mean, that's less coming out of the general fund.
Oh, I was thinking of other groups for the, water bill money. Who's next?
Okay. Gonna keep going, Missy?
Sure, so I don't know if you want to go through each of the requests.
Yes, please.
Specifically, okay. Richland County Public Education Partners. It's, the program that they brought forward was a pilot program that they are hoping to do, in the school districts. Is related to a literacy initiative. Columbia Council of Neighborhoods, that's a continuation of a program that City Council awarded from last year.
Yeah.
They are we're seeking funds to help with their execution of their strategic plan. That's also a request of $28,000. Connections is one that was discussed a little bit earlier today of economic development. This is for a workforce development program, job training,
Now,
apprenticeship training.
so, yeah, and I was reading over it, and I want everybody to realize that if we fund this, this is only one class. That's it.
Connections?
Yeah, it's just one class, because it's only 12 people. We don't have any additional funding to fund anything, so everybody knows if we're funding it, we're just funding one class.
But I think that they have been given the resources and there is money specifically for workforce development so that we don't have to use our funds. And so this would, I have no problem with it being one time. I guess the only other thing is it does take time to get money from grant funds. But there's money out there that can be used as opposed to using the city's funds.
That was kind of our question. So is there a specific source of that money, or do we have to go look for it?
Go look for it. Trayvon, his area, they can look for funding.
So you feel like that could be supported with other not,
I think the other avenues discussed were grants in partnership with the office. Workforce development, wing of the COG is looking for partners like this. But it's not gonna happen overnight, again,
Yeah, they need time
Yeah.
to get, to pull those pieces together.
and the categories that Ms. Wilson has, I truly do think this is a workforce development for potential city future staff as well. And graduates of this program, I think they have a pretty strong track record of
It's
having.
got a large overhead though. I mean, and I do think we need to have, we gotta discuss that as well.
Well, if we're gonna do it, then we should take advantage of the talent that comes out to put them in the pipeline of our workforce.
You know, I mean, if your net cost is, you're looking at it, it's 7,500 and the cost is 4,500 for the students and you got 2,250 going for oversight or connection, it must be documented return. I think the question is 36% overhead, are we comfortable with that? Or we would rather say, look, y'all gotta sharpen the pencils a little bit more. We'd rather have 14 students than 12 and reduce, because I do think, $27,000 for connections is 50% of the budget of the actual cost of the students.
Is there a paid participation component of this?
No.
Of an apprenticeship?
No,
Okay, so that, those individuals aren't getting a stipend.
no, they get a free set of tools and the training. Basically, it costs them nothing to do this program.
Gotcha.
Do we have a standard on indirect or administrative that we try to follow for these grants?
Like a percent?
Yeah.
We talked, and we just really need to pull the trigger on it. Doing the indirect cost analysis, I've talked about that for
I feel
years.
like that would make it
But
a
we
lot
do
easier.
have like a baseline of what we would say indirect costs are, but again, that's what the city would say, but this is a city. You see what I'm saying? This would be,
Usually folks who are coming to us, it's
yeah.
because the funding sources that they usually have access to are much more programmatic, and so often they're looking for us to help fund
And so the,
operational type of.
yeah. The
But
reference
even in
to,
operational, you can decide like, okay, the indirect costs can be restricted and it needs to be for the facility or whatever, you know? You can allocate like what percentage you want for fringe benefits, what you want for salaries, like overhead. I just wanted to understand if there was like,
One class, that's all.
Well, they're not asking for anything like that.
they're asking for over 10% overhead.
but see, that's to your point, Dr. Bustles, I don't know if Rick applied any type of, it's not our program. So I don't know that he did that. I think you're right, he should.
Yeah, just for clarification, Rick has identified areas that he believes he can assist both of these businesses that have come together. So that 10% is actual work for him, that is not just an overhead cost. It is him working with them, checking their paperwork and making sure they have the paperwork. So it says overhead, but he actually has to work with both of them to make sure that they have the paperwork necessary, because we always ask for documentation and they need, they weren't doing that before. And as a part of this, he's guaranteed that they will do it. So that 10%, while it says overhead, he's working for it. It's not like lights.
Well,
That's
and
what overhead
I think my question was just
administrative.
around the cost of connections. I mean,
Well, and I think
it just seems like a lot of money.
I think it's interesting too, because so if we're training, because that is for them to do data recruitment and placement, but if we're bringing them to the city of Columbia, then that takes out the need to pay for folks to do placement, so. But I do believe, well, all I will say is I know they did it this last time with no money.
So you're saying the previous class had no funding?
They had a Truist grant
Okay.
before.
There
Well,
was
no, Michael donated his time, for this last class.
All right, so what is there, do we need more clarification? Do we need to
Yeah,
request
it
more
was-
info? What do we need?
If you think it's what I would suggest is if you think it's too much money, go ahead and bring it down and,
That's what I agree.
Let me ask you,
They can make those
We think you can do it
adjustments.
for this.
yeah.
yeah, let me ask you
I would
this.
just like to see if we could just, I mean, if we take 9,000 out of the 27 and put it towards 2 more students, I mean, I think that's what we
I
need.
mean, I
to
can
be
buy into
looking at.
that, yeah.
They need Rick's help though.
Yeah, I'm not talking about out of Rick's, I'm talking out of
Okay.
out of the other connections. I don't think it's, I mean, for one, Michael has been able to recruit on his own.
So you're saying take that down to 18 and then we're good with this proposal?
Yes.
I'd put it to 1,000 a student is what I would do.
Tina, let me ask you, what,
Sounds good.
and I just asked Daniel the same question.
So
14
14,000,
individuals?
yeah, and then put the rest of it towards students to the class.
So probably should clarify, there's not funding identified for these requests. The only funding we have available is 126,000.
All right,
Oh, so what you're saying, we're doing a lot of calculating. Thank you, Mrs.
Sorry.
what has been the movement from?
Assuming we had the
That's sometimes the risk in terms of, showing, but at the same time,
Yeah.
these are requests that come forward.
Yeah,
Wait a
we
minute,
have to
I guess
let you
I'm
know
confused
about
then, because you've got it written up as general fund and 5% journal, as options, so.
That's the only, because that's what we refer to, the 5% as general purpose, is treated like general fund.
Okay.
It's not eligible, in other words, it's not eligible for any other thing, and that was the note about it
So
being
what you're
potential
telling us
eligible
is we
funding
got
source.
$418,000 of requests, we only have 126,
Correct.
so we gotta decide
Not
what
sharpen
we wanna
your pencil.
support.
Or
I know,
wait for
or wait
surplus,
for-
or
We do have a surplus
extended
this year.
Yeah, but
collections.
that's,
Yes,
Yeah, so we could go
whenever
through
close
and-
out the fiscal year and see where we have in terms of what more may become
So
available.
what you're saying is we're doing a lot of work right now, but we don't need to do a lot of
This is
work
just
right now.
informational purposes only.
It is, and as Ms. Wilson mentioned, as these requests come forward,
But we do need to prioritize and kind of.
yeah, because some are related in certain ways, workforce development or youth programming and, yes, Trevon is doing a lot in his space, but,
Can't do it all.
can't do it all and there have been attempts to guide people into applying for grants and things like that, and we can't make them do that. So it's just, it is for information at this point, but I do think, we don't want people to make requests and we don't give them an answer eventually either, so.
But on the other hand, we got to have all available sources, grant sources available, to make some of this take place.
So the carry forward money that Will was talking about, that's outside of the 5%, correct?
so that, it's still only 5% of what's eligible from that, from what we haven't already taken. Because we have allocated, every year within the 5%, so that money does get spent. So that doesn't mean that there would not be some available in fund balance at the end of this year to
Maybe.
increase it, but it will still be, it's a small percentage. It's a small amount above what we've already allocated.
Is that 5 less than 5?
It's a percentage, 5%. So it would be, maybe, it could be another 10, 20,000.
So can you review the total H-tax? It's $16 million roughly.
Correct.
And we set aside how much for applicants?
3 million, 3.6? 3.9? No.
So,
3.9
oh,
million?
4, so the other 12 hasn't,
You can cut it down to 12.
the other 12 million.
Right, for H-Tax, and now the
Yeah.
H-Tax, and that's why there's two different groups. The H-Tax, there is a 415,000 available for the H-Tax list. It's the ones from the top part that's only eligible, they're not eligible for any of the other special revenue sources. These don't qualify for hospitality tax, accommodations, tourism type activities. That's the one that there's not a funding source identified. The ones below are things that you have funded historically already and continue to fund. We trying to be inclusive here.
Okay, I
So
see
there
what you're
is-
saying.
Love that was
There is
funded through economic development previously.
It was funded out of A-Tax,
Really?
5%. It was. It just so happens it was a year, not every year has there been allocations from it, so that year, all of what was available went to that group.
And then back to the community promotions type pot of funds that sometimes we've come back later and tried to look at fund balance, general fund balance, and y'all might have pulled
Right.
100,000 or whatever, for requests like these. Might have had a process where then we open it up and people could apply for it or not.
So really down to, we've just got to decide what we want to fund out of that. And do we want to fully fund
You want to
two
now.
programs? No, I don't think we want to do it now. I
Right.
don't think through it.
Right.
Fund,
Right.
yeah, I mean, you could fund two programs fully, or you could fund everybody partially,
Right.
you know?
Well, I meant now if you wanna use the 126, is that it? Or if
I
you
mean, that's
wanna
what the
wait.
budget-
Plus the water.
If you wanna wait.
Plus the water bill money.
Yep.
We'll have a number on the water bill number by then.
Counting every dollar.
Mm-hmm, got you.
But yeah, the bottom part is related to hospitality tax, and there is funding available in the hospitality tax for that.
Yeah, there's funding available for all of those requests.
So maybe we should.
The bottom four.
We have money.
We did, aren't we? Didn't we just run through those bottom 4?
You
Those
did.
can get funded?
Okay, so we're good with those.
If that's the,
Well, I mean,
I think
we
there's
still
a
got,
couple you got some questions on.
we got a
right?
CCP discussion,
question.
tighten that up.
Mhm,
And these streams is 200,000.
that's
Correct.
correct.
So is there enough then?
Yes,
Okay.
and some.
So is I'm not familiar necessarily with the Richland County Public Education Partners Literacy League.
Mhm.
It's in there.
I know to see the paperwork, but I'm not, can anyone ever work with them?
Yeah, I'm on their board. They were started and did a lot of work around social emotional development. And then the executive board director moved on to serve on the school board. So now Alana Grant is the new executive director. And the focus is on parent engagement and literacy. And is really looking for seed funding to help get that off the ground.
What's the parenting, is that a new component?
It's a continued component, but she's doing more of a focus on early childhood literacy based on kind of the data out there in terms of literacy rates in Richland 1 and 2.
I would say the work is deeper versus wider, what
Yes.
she's trying to do, which is good.
Is she working with any of our offices, like, Trayvon or anybody?
We had a meeting with, various city departments for them to get to know the work that she's doing, to include Trevon. I'm not sure about the follow-up so far,
Didn't bring me.
but I do think there's opportunity for some partnerships for sure with him.
Well, I mean, is this, just to put it forward as a city partnership program, I mean, would they run through Parks and Rec facilities and, or this is all
It would be within the school.
She's looking she's looking to do this in
Yeah.
the schools.
within the school? Do you know if the school, the District 1's putting any funding towards it?
They have in the past. in the change in leadership, there may be more,
But they're opening up, they're good with the facilities.
yeah, and RCPAP got off the ground because of a, Richland County Council allocation, a couple of years ago, so I know she's working that circuit as well.
So the top five are a positive work in progress.
Yes, sir.
And I think the most important thing is she already has entry in the schools that she's identified, kind of like what city manager mentioned, that she knows exactly what schools they'd be able to go into and build out.
Is there any way to qualify that 50,000 to say that?
It must be,
Well, no, I'm just saying, I mean, I would just like to know that we're gonna help X number of kids with $50,000 versus we're
Does
gonna,
indicate how many
we're gonna do a
students.
lot of good. It'd be nice just, I mean, I think everybody should try to qualify the grant or the gift or whatever you wanna call it.
Absolutely.
so it's for 250
Got
struggling
metrics.
readers in grades K through 8. And they will host 4 large-scale literacy events reaching at least 2,000 families.
And then the metrics say for tutoring, so it says 200 plus students will receive tutoring and at least 150 will show measurable reading growth.
Is that, and I guess that's through the school year. It does have the 35,000 for hiring, training, and
The tutors.
certifying the tutors. Marketing program.
And I think she also.
The
knew
data
that this might
tracking and
be-
administration.
Not be funding available for this summer, it may have to be for next summer.
Oh, is she aiming to fund for this summer? Oh,
I didn't did she say for the summer or for the school year?
She's looking to do this in the summertime.
I don't know if it's,
Yeah.
I think it's the school year.
That. I don't remember
I mean, I
that
think
part.
ideally she has a couple of things in the works that would launch this summer, but this would be during the school year, so the timing I think is fine.
Mhm.
And right now it's a organization of one, so that's why I think she's looking for the literacy.
so she's the only staff person. Does she have a staff?
it's my
Particular district.
Yeah.
Or she don't have a,
She has a salary, but like,
I'm not from the.
no, it wouldn't be from this, we have a. This would be
Missy,
just
with your timeline, when do you want us to have kind of debated all this stuff out?
So I don't know that there is as tight of a timeline on these, other than those that may have, like, your Urban League may need to know something in order for them to launch their summer activities.
So by the next meeting, I mean, by the end of May, that'll give us plenty of time to get any of the additional information.
Right, the funds will be available. Probably the H-tax ones would be the most, items that we would want to know in time to be able to publish in the budget, per se.
Sounds like the only question with those, and we'll follow up, is with the CCP expanded funding.
Yeah, just making sure we're on the same page as they are on cost.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you all very much.
And then we did talk about are you done?
I am.
Oh. The memo reference, I just want to be clear on that, because we did come back to, clarify there's a CCN request in here, obviously. That was separate and apart from the discussion about the events. And so in your memo, we made a recommendation about just continuing to handle that the way we've been handling it, because it doesn't really it seems to be working from our standpoint. Now, if there's something else you all wanted to do differently, but, okay,
Just so you know, I'll be out of the country on June 3rd.
okay.
And likely not calling in,
Not calling in.
likely not. I wouldn't, but likely not.
It's a negative
Likely
vote.
If you're not there, then.
Negative
Likely
vote.
not calling in, but anything's possible.
Thank you.
I think that was is that the only other thing from the memo? Yeah.
It is called out, and I didn't even include that one in the discussion. I didn't even include that in the paragraph.
No. Okay, but yeah, it's a paragraph about it in your memo if you need to.
Alright.
Okay, thank you so much, and
Thank
then we'll monitor and adjust the schedule as needed, but
We got some
the budget
homework to do and
will be
some
approved.
pencil,
Hope that more funding comes in.
some pencil,
That's really.
Will, you have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
No.
Oh, sorry. I, motion to enter into executive session
Edward's halfway out the door.
for receipt of legal advice relating to matters covered by attorney-client privilege pursuant to SC Code 34782, aid to subdivision.
I'm loving it.
Motion in a second, Madam Clerk, would you read the roll?
We're losing the room, Madam
It's always
Clerk.
good. That's the 4 o'clock. I was like, oh.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Here,
One item,
let me-
but fairly,
Take it. Ms. Herbert?
juicy one.
Yes.
Dr. Bustles?
Yes.
Mr. Brennan? Mr. McDowell?
Adjourn.
Yes,
yes,
One item.
Second.
One item.
Yes.
I'm not getting it, it's 2:45 for that.